Okay, today our deep dive takes us right into a crisis unfolding in Central California. We're talking about the 6.5 fire, and it's consuming land at an incredible rate. Think like 8 football fields every single minute. It's really something. But this isn't just about, the fire itself. It's also hitting a place with deep historical roots.
Yeah.
The gold rush town of Chinese Camp. It's right there in the fire's path. So we've gathered articles, official reports, historical bits and pieces, trying to understand not just the immediate situation, this lightning-sparked inferno, but also the really profound history here that makes this fire feel, especially poignant. Our mission today: explore where it started, why it spread so terrifyingly fast, and dig into the rich, maybe surprising history of Chinese Camp itself, basically giving you a shortcut to grasping this whole complex, moving situation. All right, so let's start with the fire itself. The 6.5 fire, it kicked off Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. It's sparked by a lightning storm. And since then, it's been relentless.
The numbers really tell the story, don't they? Tearing through, like we said, roughly 8 football fields of land every minute on average in those first 10 hours.
It's an astonishing rate of spread.
And by Wednesday evening, nearly 7,000 acres already scorched. With, and this is the kicker, 0% containment reported by CAL FIRE then.
Yeah, 0%. And what's really critical to understand here is the type of trigger. It wasn't just any lightning storm. It was specifically what meteorologists call dry thunderstorms.
Thunderstorms.
Okay, and that's not just jargon. It completely changes the game. Picture this. A thunderstorm happens, but the rain, it evaporates completely before it even hits the ground.
Wow, so no relief from the rain.
None at all. So you get these powerful lightning strikes hitting bone-dry ground, super dry fuels with absolutely zero moisture to, maybe dampen the spark.
Right.
It's essentially, it's a perfect ignition system for a wildfire.
Okay.
And then you add in the gusty, unpredictable winds these dry storms often kick up. And you've got the perfect recipe for really erratic, fast-moving fire behavior.
So the key isn't just lightning, it's the lack of rain. That's what turns it into this immediate, almost unstoppable inferno.
Exactly.
This dry lightning is like a silent accomplice, isn't it? Making containment just incredibly difficult.
Unbelievably difficult, because when a fire moves like that so erratically, it's not just spreading predictably in one direction. It's jumping ahead, it's swirling, it can even create its own sort of localized chaotic weather.
Wow.
Which makes it so hard for fire crews to get those containment lines established and, more importantly, hold them. The fire can just bypass their efforts almost instantly.
So they're not just fighting flames, they're fighting this unpredictable system.
Exactly. A dynamic, unpredictable system.
And okay, the acreage numbers are horrifying, but the immediate human toll, thankfully, no reported injuries or deaths as of Wednesday evening. That's a small bit of good news in all this.
It is, definitely. But the disruption, the sheer displacement, it's immense.
Yeah, over 300 people forced to evacuate from Chinese Camp and nearby areas, just leaving everything behind with hardly any notice. And then another 350 people, neighbors basically, told to be ready to leave at any moment, living with that constant, just gut-wrenching anxiety.
Yeah, that be ready warning is incredibly stressful. And this really highlights just how fast these situations escalate now. The fire has already damaged or destroyed multiple buildings. We've seen these heartbreaking reports. At least 5 homes burning in Chinese Camp itself.
And it's a small town, right? Not like a huge city.
Exactly. It's a small rural place, mix of regular homes, mobile homes. Every single loss hits that tight-knit community really hard.
Yeah.
There was even this incredibly vivid account from Tuesday evening. 7 residents, just regular people, desperately moving big tree branches, shoveling sand for like 30 minutes, literally fighting the fire themselves, trying to save a neighbor's home before firefighters could even get there.
That just shows you the immediate danger, the community spirit kicking in.
Absolutely. And an RV on that same property got damaged too. It just paints a stark picture how close the flames got, how fast. And beyond the homes, parts of highways 120 and 49, critical routes nearby, were closed Wednesday.
Right, which affects everything. Access for emergency crews, escape routes for residents.
Exactly. It's not just about the buildings, it's the infrastructure, the social fabric holding things together.
Okay, so we've talked about the immediate danger, the fire itself. But to really get what's at stake in Chinese Camp, we need to look back, right, way back to its origins.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just any small town. It holds this incredibly unique, important place in American history, directly tied to the California Gold Rush.
That's right.
This fire isn't just threatening buildings, it's threatening like a physical piece of history. A testament to this defiant spirit that helped build California.
Absolutely. And if you connect this to the bigger picture of American history, the gold rush pulled thousands of Chinese miners to the U.S. in the mid-1800s. They were seeking opportunity, a new life.
Right. The classic story.
But instead of, open arms, they faced just immense anti-immigrant feelings, outright persecution.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the worst examples was the foreign miners tax. This wasn't just some general tax.
Well,
It was specifically designed with an exorbitant rate to drive Chinese miners away from their claims, to basically make it impossible for them to succeed. They were literally being taxed out of existence.
so facing that pressure, being pushed out of other areas, these miners, they showed incredible resilience and basically formed their own communities.
Precisely. They were driven out of another mining camp because of these discriminatory practices, but they were determined to find a place to actually thrive. So they settled here, in this spot, in 1849.
1849, right at the start.
Yeah. And interestingly, it was first called Camp Washington. That detail often gets lost.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it very quickly became known as Chinese Camp, reflecting who founded it, who built that community. And it wasn't just, a place to sleep. It became a symbol of perseverance, a refuge, a really vibrant cultural hub in what was otherwise a pretty hostile landscape.
Right.
Sources from back then describe it as bustling, home to thousands of Chinese miners. It had its own stores, temples, social structures, all built on, community support and just sheer hard work against incredible odds.
And this history, it's not just in books.
Yeah.
It's tangible there.
Exactly. The town itself, soaked in this rich, complex history, was added to California's historical landmarks list back in 1949, which acknowledges its unique, vital contribution to the state's story.
Greatly so.
It's even been a backdrop for movies, which tells you something about its visual appeal, its cultural weight. It's a place where history feels really present. It's in the surviving buildings, the layout, the whole spirit of the place. And that historical weight just makes the current threat feel heavier.
And maybe one of the most poignant losses from this fire, something being reported now, is the destruction of the town's historic post office.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and this wasn't just any old building. It was built in 1854, made of stone and brick. And it had been continuously operating the whole time.
Since 1854. Wow.
Right up until it burned this week. Just think about that.
A
tangible, living link straight back to the Gold Rush era.
A building that stood for over 170 years, generations of history. Gone.
Yeah. It's not just a structure. It's like a piece of collective memory, a symbol of continuity. Irreplaceable, really.
Absolutely irreplaceable. And, adding to the vulnerability, Chinese Camp, like a lot of historic towns, it has abandoned buildings too, right? In various states of disrepair. And many have been sort of reclaimed by nature, lots of overgrown greenery, which might look kind of historically interesting.
Picturesque almost.
Yeah, but in reality, it becomes a modern fire hazard. It's just ready-made fuel for a fast-moving fire like the 6.5.
So it's this cruel irony where the natural process of decay actually helps destroy the history itself.
Exactly. The reclamation becomes fuel for destruction.
Okay, so this specific history, it adds this really profound layer to what's happening in Chinese Camp right now. But stepping back a bit, beyond this one town, what is this whole lightning complex telling us about maybe the changing nature of wildfires in California this season? Are we seeing new patterns here, new challenges?
That's a really critical point to think about. The 6.5 fire, as devastating as it is on its own, it's just one of over a dozen wildfires that erupted across California just on Tuesday.
A dozen? Wow.
Yeah, all sparked by literally thousands of lightning strikes. So CAL FIRE, trying to manage this huge widespread crisis, they've grouped 22 of these individual fires.
22
fires, including the 6.5, into what they're calling the CAL FIRE TCU September Lightning Complex.
Okay, a lightning complex.
Right. And that means nearly 600 fire personnel are assigned just to manage this whole complex. They're trying to get a handle on multiple fires burning at the same time across the region.
That sounds like an enormous logistical nightmare. How does fighting a complex like that differ from fighting just one big fire?
Oh, it's a completely different beast. When you're dealing with a complex, your resources, air tankers, ground crews, equipment, they're stretched thin right from the start.
Right.
You have to make these really tough calls about where to deploy things, prioritizing maybe one community over another, or deciding between structures and, say, watershed protection or historical sites. It involves impossible choices sometimes. Firefighters aren't just battling one fire front. They're fighting many, often in remote, really difficult terrain. The level of coordination needed is just immense. You're relying heavily on advanced mapping, weather prediction, rapid communication, trying to guess where the next flare-up might happen.
And this isn't just a one-off challenge for this week, is it? This feels like something bigger.
Well, research does indicate that as our climate changes, we are seeing an increase in the frequency and maybe the intensity of these dry thunderstorms, particularly in regions that maybe historically didn't see them as often or not to this degree.
Okay.
So it's not just about having hot, dry summers anymore. It's about these new ignition sources popping up, sometimes in unexpected conditions, and it pushes our fire management strategies right to their limits.
So the new normal for fire season. It's getting longer, more volatile, and lightning is becoming as big a threat as human causes.
It certainly seems that way. Natural ignitions from lightning are becoming a really significant factor, yeah.
So we're looking at this shifting landscape of risk. These dry lightning complexes might become like a regular feature. What does that mean for preventing this stuff long term? How can communities like Chinese Camp even adapt?
It means we have to rethink. Well, pretty much our entire approach. It goes way beyond just immediate firefighting. It forces us to look hard at a whole range of strategies. Things like more aggressive forest management, creating fuel breaks, reducing those ladder fuels that let fire climb into the canopy, implementing defensible space around homes, but maybe on a much larger community-wide scale.
And for historic places like Chinese Camp, it raises this really urgent question. How do you protect unique older structures that obviously weren't built with modern fire codes?
Yeah, that seems incredibly difficult.
It is. It might involve specialized retrofitting, using non-combustible landscaping, maybe even more localized, sort of preemptive fire protection just for those truly irreplaceable landmarks.
Yeah, the cost.
The economic impact is staggering. Not just the cost of fighting the fires, but lost property, lost tourism revenue, and just the emotional toll on residents who face this threat year after year. It's immense.
So, from the raw power of that lightning strike, just eating up land minute by minute, to the deep, deep roots of a community born from this really tumultuous time in history. The story of the 6.5 fire in Chinese Camp, it's just such a stark, kind of poignant reminder, isn't it? How fragile our shared heritage can be when faced with nature's power. It's a real collision of forces. Absolutely. This whole deep dive, it really highlights that incredible resilience you see in communities, but also the immense and constantly evolving challenges of managing fire in this changing climate. And that constant interplay, sometimes intense interplay between our history and our environment, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As these dry thunderstorms potentially become more frequent, more intense, really altering our fire seasons, how do we adapt how we preserve things? How do we best protect not just lives and homes, which are, of course, absolutely paramount, but also those irreplaceable historical landmarks, the cultural sites that tell our collective story, especially when those very sites are in places that are becoming increasingly vulnerable?
Yeah.
It's a question that really demands, I think, continuous learning, innovation, and maybe a deeper connection to both the histories and the environments we live in.